This is a very, very successful sales process model for SaaS product company. Okay. SaaS product is a software as a service.
Rajneesh, we want to zoom a little bit. It's a bit too small. We can't see it. Yeah. Thank you.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, much better. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'll zoom a bit more. Better now?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay. So here I will quickly explain a very, very successfully implemented model by a leading SaaS product company. So that you understand what I have explained so far to all of you. So if you see, if we design a sales process for a B2B sales, what are the major components? First is segmenting your market. You have to segment your market. You have to segment your target group. So in this case, since it's a SaaS product, they segmented on two broader categories. One is large enterprise and the other one is small and medium enterprise. So why they did like this? Because typically what happens in a B2B scenario, that large enterprises have a very, very longer sales cycle. So the deals take much longer to close. And because there are a lot of levels of decision making and a lot of people hierarchies are involved in terms of decision making. And small and medium enterprises, why? Because these are comparatively smaller organizations. Decision making is flat and faster, and they have a comparatively smaller sales closure cycles. So picking up on these two combinations will ensure that the sales funnel is always full with very healthy balance of revenue, closers, higher revenue, larger volume with smaller revenues. So large enterprises will give you small volume but with high revenues, and the small and medium enterprises will give you large volume but lesser value. So choosing these two categories broadly will balance the sales pipeline, and then this large enterprise and small enterprise can be further dimensioned to the focus areas. For example, FMCG industry, or maybe you can further drill it down, soft drinks, liquor companies, energy drink companies, packaged water. You can, depending on the type of product you are handling, so you can further drill it down. So what happens in a typical, how do you model sales process in a company? There are three big pillars of a software product company. Because I'm giving example of a SaaS product, so I'll stick to this example only and explain particular to this category. So there are three broad categories of this entire sales process, or I would like to say these are three building blocks of the entire sales process. The first one is demand generation. The second one is acquisition, and the third one is after sales. Okay, so let me get into detail of what is demand generation. Demand generation can happen online and offline. So COVID, I know from last 1 year and maybe next couple of years, it will impact the offline efforts, but onlines are going to stay, and onlines are much more effective and in terms of convergence and cost and reach also. So but it has to be ideally it has to be combination of offline and online. Offline, if I say, like I run a software, I am selling a software. So for example, you say logistic solutions or inventory management solution. So as an offline effort, what I would like to do, I will participate in all the exhibitions, seminars which are happening physically. I will put up a stall there. I'll showcase my product there. I'll do a lot of brochuring, and I'll create a lot of brochures. I will send physical brochures. I'll hand over physical brochures and try to connect leads from those events or some associations and all. Suppose there is a maybe if I'm talking about a logistics company, just to give you an example, there is a transport association of Vietnam, for example. So it is an association of people who are managing transportation services in the country. So I would like to be a part of that association, and I would like to go and interact whenever they are meeting together, because they are my prospect. Okay. So these are some examples of offline demand generation techniques. Then moving on to online, and that is how companies are operating these days. 90% of the focus is on the online channel only. So in the online, if I talk, you have to define what are the channels of your online demand generation. So channels of online demand generation, one example I discussed with you in very, very great detail was email marketing. This is one channel. Second channel is social marketing, social media marketing. Third channel is organizing virtual conferences, virtual seminars, then webinars, doing webinars around your product, inviting experts to conduct a webinar, and you invite all the prospect, because they don't come for your product, they are coming to listen to those experts, and you generate leads out of that, because it is happening under the umbrella of your B2B product. So these are the few methods. So the demand generation, essentially what it does, it generates leads for you, be it an offline effort or an online effort. So the sole purpose of demand generation in the sales process is to generate leads. When I say leads, I only talk about qualitative leads. The leads has to be qualitative. So how do you know that a lead is qualitative or not non-qualitative lead? So there has to be a lead generation process completely. So lead generation process, I told you about the channels. Okay, there has to be channels of lead generation. How it is to be done, which channels to be used, what emails to be sent, when to send, how to send, what to write, the content of those emails, the content which you put on your on the internet. So if somebody is searching for something, what content you are putting onto your website, because when some customer is visiting your website, what all content is there for the prospect to read and go through, how interactive it is. So all these are various methods and channels to generate leads. Okay. So, but how do you know that whether these leads are qualitative? So you have to get into a lead scoring model. Lead scoring model, what do I mean? Lead scoring model is a model which you can create. You can also very, very easily create. I'll give you some examples to help you understand, and you can implement it in whatever you do. If you are currently doing some B2B sales, I would request you that you must try and create this lead scoring model. It's very, very easy and simple. As an individual also you can create. For example, I'll quickly explain to you what is a lead scoring model. So depending on the prospect interaction with you, and the level of interaction, and the number of interactions, you assign points to that prospect. Okay. For example, anybody searched Google, my company listing or my product listing was there, he clicked onto that and visited my website. Okay, this is one example. So that is a prospect. Okay, and he also filled the inquiry form. Okay, he filled the inquiry form where he left his email address, name, for you to reach out to him or her. Okay, so this is one activity. Now how you can, you have assigned 10 10 marks, for example, for this activity, that if somebody is doing it, you will give it a 10 marks. Why? Because the user was looking for a solution. He searched on internet. He landed from internet. He found your product there. He found your content on the internet. He clicked on that content. He landed onto your website. He explored your website and then left his or her contact details also. So that means user is really interested and he is trying to figure out that whether you could be a good solution for that for the problem the user is for the problem the prospect is facing. Okay, so now the trick is that you have to, as a B2B salesperson, you have to look a level below, just to bring all of you on the same page. I will give one example very quickly. Suppose we decided that we'll assign 10 marks to this activity. Very well, go ahead and assign 10 marks. Now you have to look into the inquiry form. Suppose you created 2 fields, okay, or 3 fields, for example. One was your name, your email address. This was mandatory. Your phone number was not mandatory. And please explain your problem, or a message box. Okay, so you go back to the form which was generated by that user, and if you see that if the user has given his or her business email, then you can assign more marks. Because you immediately can go and Google that business and see what kind of you can collect a lot of data about that user immediately because of the domain name of that email address. For example, I work for, say, for example, I work for Masan Group here. Okay, for all of you know Masan. So I give my email rajneesh@masan.vietnam or masan.com. So immediately you will know that this visitor was from Masan Group, and you can find a lot of information about that group on internet and do your research very well before even talking to that customer. So when you contact that customer over email or over phone or whatever way customer wants, the user wants, you will be well prepared. So that is how you can shorten your sales cycle. So you assign a larger weightage to that lead if there is a business email address. So this was just one example to help you create a lead scoring model. Okay, another example. You sent invite to 50 of your prospects. Okay, prospect I am saying means 50 people who came to your website, filled your inquiry form and gave their email address. Okay, and so you have a set of 50 such people in your database. You are organizing a webinar and you invite all of them. The webinar has to be, of course, relevant to their needs. Okay, it can be relevant to all 50 of them or it can be relevant to 10 of them. You have to, as a salesperson, you have to figure out that whom to invite. You cannot be inviting everybody for a generic, and you cannot be holding generic webinars. Okay, so suppose you are organizing a webinar on inventory optimization in the store, for example. So obviously you will like to invite all those clients who are managing stores, who are running retail stores. You don't want to invite somebody who is a manufacturer of some goods. So that way you have to filter. So for example, you invited 50 people who are relevant to your webinar, and you see that out of those 50, 30 turned up, okay, for that webinar. So you, in your lead scoring model, you assign 10 more marks to them, all 30 of them who came and attended who came to your webinar. Okay, then you'll have to analyze their behavior during the webinar. How interactive were they? Did they attended completely? They left in between, or they were asking questions? If it was webinar has to be interactive, so were they involved? Were they asking questions? So on the basis of their interaction and all, you can further assign a few marks to that lead. So one first step, you reach out to them, they come, you have generated an inquiry, you assign certain marks to that lead. They come to your webinar, you assign further marks to that lead. So, so as you number of times you interact with a prospect, okay, you keep on adding marks to that lead. Okay, so as a salesperson or as a sales organization, I have to draw a cutoff depending on what I am selling and to whom I am selling. So two things to be kept in mind: the type of product or service I am selling as a salesperson, and the market to which I am selling, who are my target customers. So depending on these two factors, you can decide a cutoff. Okay, when there is a 50% scoring, then it is a qualified lead, and now I need to actually act on that. Okay, or a 30%, 50%, 60%. This you can plan. Okay, so you can try this, and if you need any help, obviously through Mr. Masood, you can always get in touch, and he is there to help you, and we can help you to create this kind of a lead scoring model if you want. You are really interested. Okay, so you coming to demand generation, there has to be a lead. The primary function is lead generation and a quality lead generation, and for the quality lead generation, it has to be based on a scientific lead scoring model, so that you pre-qualify the leads. You don't waste the time of the acquisition team into following up onto not good leads. Okay, because the resources are limited, and it's very difficult for the acquisition team if they are fed with a lot of leads which are not qualitative. Okay, so just to add, one more point which is very, very important that I want to add to the lead scoring model, that this is a very, very ongoing process, because you need to fine tune your scoring, the weightages you assign to various things. Okay, for example, people coming from your Google search onto your website, filling up your inquiry form on your website, then attending your webinar, their conversion rate is 50%, for example. Okay, or the people who are coming from some affiliate link which you have placed onto some other website, they click, they don't attend your webinar, they ask you for a product demo directly, their closure rate is 50%. So what you will do in due course of time, you will develop a set of learnings that, okay, people who do this and this and also this, the conversion is 100%. The people who do X, do Z, and do A, their conversion is 50%. So basis these learnings over the period of time, as an organization or as an individual, you can keep fine tuning your lead scoring. Which lead or which activity to assign more weightage to, then accordingly you can enrich this entire process and enrich the subsequent sales pipeline. Okay, so now moving on to the second aspect of demand generation, inside sales. Generally, what is inside sales in a B2B parlance? People selling remotely. People are sitting in Vietnam and selling to US clients, remotely, through emails, through virtually talking to them, and so these are inside sales. So earlier they used to be a part of acquisition team because they acquire the users. But in modern day scenario, if you have to be successful, for example, this is a very, very sales process of a successful SaaS company. So in this case, what they did, they put inside sales under demand generation just to validate those leads and make initial pitch. How this helped them? There is a lead scoring model. Lead has been qualified. It moves to inside sales. So inside sales team makes the first contact with the prospect through email, obviously, or through some other means, through a direct message on LinkedIn, or LinkedIn. They are using LinkedIn Sales Navigator services, to reach out, and from there they are communicating, or maybe they are connected. They will connect to that prospect or the decision maker on LinkedIn and make a first contact. So the first contact will be made by the user after the lead is qualified in terms of pitching your product. Okay, so it is a human contact virtually. Okay, now the human aspect will come into play. Earlier, everything was happening, so it will be a human contact. So somebody will be assigned. There is a team. So 10 leads will be assigned to one guy who will do a research on that company further and then make an initial pitch and make that pitch, product pitch or the services pitch to that prospect. And basis that pitch, if he feels that yes, it is a genuine lead and the user is really interested and I have been able to explain all my features and which suit the requirement of the prospect, then it will be passed on to the acquisition team. And if it is a technical product, then what will happen? Generally what happens that in large SaaS products which carry a higher value means more than 20, 30, 50,000 per annum kind of a license fee. In that cases, what happens? You need to customize a lot as per the user's request. Okay, just to give you an example, that user want to use your software but want his logo to be put on that, and a lot of changes here and there. He wants the input fields to be changed as per the business requirement, and the report format the user want that it has to know, I don't want to see report like this, I want reports like this. So a lot of customization needs to happen as per the user. So in that case, pre-sales team comes into the picture. So what is pre-sales? It is basically a technical support to the sales team. So they will understand the customization efforts needed, and they will get back. They will work with the prospect on handling the customization request. And then there is a field sales team which will go and talk to that will be the first point of physical contact with the or the field teams during the during this phase of sales process, acquisition process, they become the single point of contact for the buyer, because he wants to talk to one person and let that sales guy talk to internally to the pre-sales, to the technology or to marketing or whatsoever, and gets back to the user. And once the deal is closed, then the after sales team, or we also call them customer success team, which is a recent terminology which is being used and which is very, very correct. Because in case of software sales, the model normally works like on a renewal. Outright purchases happen very, very rarely. So the buyer generally pay for a particular time frame or 6 months or a 12-month contract, and then they renew. So the renewal will only happen when the buyer is satisfied fully with your product, fully with the features, and it is serving what was committed, and he or she is able to use the services, exploit the full potential of the product. Okay, so to make this happen, customer success team plays a very, very important role, or the after sales service. So after sales service will implement the solution at the buyer's end, train the team at the buyer's end how to effectively use that product, and will be in touch with them on a regular period, so that to make sure that they are using it correctly, they are using the full features of the product, and this team becomes responsible for the retention, for the renewal of the license, and for the upsell also. Upsell, what I mean, that suppose I have two products in my company as a B2B software. So a buyer has bought one product. So can I identify the need, or I do some value addition to the existing product and sell it as a value added service to the same buyer and increase my revenues from that account. So the customer success team plays a very, very important role in retaining that customer, in renewal of the contracts, and in upselling and increasing the revenue from that account. So this is so why I wanted to explain to you, in a typical B2B setup of a large SaaS companies, this is how typically the model they follow, and successfully they have followed this model. So herein, as a B2B salesperson, I can fit in here acquisition, I can fit in here, I can fit in here. So if you want to develop yourself into a complete top-notch B2B sales professional, you have to have skill sets of demand generation, acquisition, and after sales. You have to have all three skill sets if you want to excel as a B2B sales professional. So, if I have any questions, please keep on sending in the messages. I will later on, once I'm through with the presentation, I will address all of them. Me and Mr. John will jointly address. Okay, so this was a complete model in terms of a organization, in terms of a B2B sales organization or a B2B product organization or a B2B services organization. So now I will quickly move on to how as an individual, as a B2B sales professional, okay, what things I told you, what all three traits you need to nurture. First is that you have to have skill sets of demand generation. Online, I was talking about using technology, to enrich and enable your sales process. So you have to have skill sets on these. Then obviously this is the core skill. Acquisition is the core skill of any sales B2B sales person. And then you have to have a after sales service mentality as well. You have to have traits of a customer success representative or a customer success professional as well, so that when you combine all these traits into your personality, into your day-to-day working, into your day-to-day thinking, into your day-to-day interaction with your prospects, if you combine these three things internally, and then you will see that you will be able to make a major impact in your results. It will give you a major impact. But yeah, I know it is not easy to learn so many techniques, and generally we as a sales people, as a sales professional, what we do, everybody likes to take shortcuts, obviously, because this is a very very long and tedious process, of learning, that you have to learn. It doesn't mean that you have to work 20 years to learn all these traits. You can learn very very quickly, because you have technology. You have to leverage technology in attaining these skill sets and using these skill sets. So technology has made it very very easy for anyone, to quickly learn these skill sets and implement all these learnings into day-to-day working. So coming to you as a B2B sales professional, what are the traits, what are the functional skills or the functional skill sets you need to have? I have explained some in my last slide.